is the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. The Sports Hit List presents Smoking Mirrors with Declan Krogman and the Polius Brothers, Greg and Stefan, breaking down the biggest news in sports, giving you the stories behind the story, here for all the smoke, all the time, right here on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Good afternoon and welcome to a Monday edition of Smoking Mirrors presented by the Sports Hit List on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm your host, Stefan Polius, alongside Declan Krogman and Greg Polius. Gentlemen, how you doing today? How was the weekend? Greg?
It was great. You know, I'm a little tired. I went on a little mini road trip with the wife for Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
But I'm recovering from a long road trip.
That's what's up. Treated her right. She deserves it. Deck, what about you? How you doing? How's your weekend, bro?
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Kind of echo Greg's statements. A little happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. We saw a lot of pink in the MLB.
Yes.
So that was a thing, as it always is every year. We didn't get it last year because of the pandemic, so nice to have it back this year. I had a really good weekend.
Nice. Yeah, I had a good weekend as well. It was I was inside for the most part, but still relaxing. Nice to catch up on some shows. You know, that's a good weekend for me right now. It rained yesterday, which was a little but you know, I'm glad to be here now doing this. And as you mentioned, the MLB. Let's start with that. Let's start with my Mets. I should say our Mets, as the Mets are on a 5-game winning streak. All right, looking good. Playing a lot better, providing the offense that they should be providing for the pitchers. DeGrom went yesterday, and he was DeGrominant until he had to exit in the 6th inning. An apparent lat injury. It's what held him out from starting in the middle of the week last week. I believe there was a report saying that every day, after every start, he does have soreness in his lat, but it usually goes away after a day or two. However, this past week, he was experiencing an elongated amount of pain in the lat area, and that's what they removed him for. He's due to have an MRI, so hopefully everything's good. But he looked good yesterday. 5 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run. The 3 walks was unprecedented, really, for this season. He has a max of 2 walks. Typically, you just see a lot of command from him. But
that was an injury thing.
Yeah, I believe it's an injury thing for sure. Definitely believe it's an injury thing for sure. Greg, our Mets. How we doing? Top of the division. Just saying.
I mean, I'm not going to put too much stock in at top of the division, you know, in mid-May. Am I happy? Sure.
Yeah.
But I would say post All-Star break, that's when I'm really going to be like, all right, we're still here, you know, and we're competing. But nonetheless, I am happy.
Worth a mention at the very least.
Yeah, definitely worth a mention. Offense hopefully continues to turn it around. I do want Dom Smith, however, to get better at hitting breaking balls. He was the best in the league last year, and now he's amongst the worst in the league this year. And I don't think it's a matter of him not being able to hit it. It seems really mental for me. And I don't know if you noticed, Dom is one of the few players today that has a helicopter finish. You notice that?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you,
yes, I know his finish. I just haven't. I didn't know that there was so few of them left.
Yeah. If you think about it, there's not many. It's not as for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about. A helicopter finish is when a guy kind of finishes his swing and comes over his head like that. It's almost like a helicopter propeller over the top of your head. And I'm wondering if that finish, you know, is slightly different than last year and has any correlation to his inability to hit a breaking ball, especially sliders down and in, which is something he's really struggled with.
Yeah, the Dom Smith struggles have been really tough. I think he has capitalized on the fastballs. It's just the breaking balls that have been really detrimental to his overall success. But Lindor, someone that has struggled, came out pretty big this weekend, hitting a nice home run.
Some New York Rats.
Oh, that story. So, Declan, you want to let the people know about this rat or raccoon? I mean,
Yeah.
Either or, right?
A raccoon.
Yeah, raccoon, or maybe just a couple haymakers. But we saw on Friday night, Dom Smith and Michael Conforto ran into the dugout, and Gary Cohen and Keith Hernandez, Ron Darling, they were all up in arms, like, what's going on, guys? So apparently Lindor and McNeil were in the tunnel arguing about a rat or a raccoon. Let's just say, obviously, that's BS. They were clearly fighting. There was a little fist fight going in between the two of them.
Wait, can you say
whatever.
for certain there was a fist fight?
Yeah,
can you
we
say
don't know
that
if
for
the-
certain?
Okay, so I can say this. I can say people around the situation don't buy the story for a second.
That's fair.
And that
Okay.
there is no like people who were like on the Zoom questioning and in the room don't buy it for a second. And it almost seems like the sell job wasn't really the full commitment from Lindor. You know, it was very a lot of holes in the story. Not even the holes, but more so, he said that he hasn't seen a New York rat 15 times. If he hadn't actually seen a New York rat, he would have said it once or twice. Like, saying it more times, first of all, take it from a certified BS artist. The more you say it, the less credible it
Hold
goes.
on. That is a
Everyone
quotable.
knows.
I am running with that
Yes.
for the rest of time.
Sure.
Just putting that out
Yes.
there. Okay.
That's fine. And then he gets into this whole like tangent where he's like laughing with Steve Gelbs. He's like, "It's crazy, bro." He says that another 6 times. Credibility is just dropping for me. I like, if any sliver of belief of this ridiculous story has completely flew right out the window. First of all, I'm not going to take any shots here, but let's just be real. That is such a Mets thing to happen. Like,
I'm not going to take any shots, but let me continue to take
But that's
shots.
so
Like,
accurate.
like
Typical
anyone,
Devlin.
anyone would do, yeah.
Yes, but tell
I
me
mean, not
that's
do
not
the thing I'm
accurate.
about to do, but I do it.
Yes, I preface it. But tell
It
me
doesn't.
that's not
There's no
completely
need for a
accurate.
preface.
You're right. No, you're right. You're right. But that's not completely accurate. If this happened, if you found out, okay, Major League Baseball, this is what's going to happen on Friday night. 2 dudes are going to potentially get into a fight in the dugout, and they're going to cover it up by saying they saw a rat or a raccoon. Is that not the most Mets thing you've ever heard?
No.
I mean, this is not.
I don't know if I don't know if it's a Mets thing more so that it's like any organization that got caught in a situation that they didn't want to and they try to cover it up. Like organizations do it all the time, right? Like the Mets just it was unfortunate because what really made it hard was that Conforto and Dom Smith are coming off the field, look into the tunnel, and you see them react, and then they sprint. So now you can't really cover up the story because the camera is showing some kind of tussle, right? Typically,
Who would run towards a rat?
well, I agree. I agree that it's a BS story, but I think in this case, the camera saw enough that they had to formulate something. And that's why it sounds bad, because we saw a little bit and now they have to explain why they would these players would run in there to try and break up a heated conversation about a rat or a raccoon. To me, it might have been, because I think there was an issue on the field beforehand with Lindor and McNeil. I think McNeil might have pressed him and they were going back and forth, got a little hot. Maybe, someone presses someone up against the wall. But the way that Conforto looked in was like he lowers his head, and then him and Dom Smith sprint in to the tunnel. So we can't tell what happened in there. I believe that it was not a rat or a raccoon that was at play. But I don't think it's the most Mets story. You like to say that a lot. I think there's at least 3 weeks of you saying that about any story that comes out for the Mets.
I will say this. Out of all the Mets fans I've talked to this weekend, you guys seem to be the only one who does not believe this is a Metsian outlook.
I mean, considering whoever your circle of friends is, I'm pretty sure they're your age, so they don't remember the Billy Martins and the Lou Pinellas of the Yankees. So frankly, I'm not buying what you're saying.
They remember the Keith and Darryl fights.
I'm not buying what you're selling about a Metsian thing. Okay, so
you can
said,
get off the stock. It's like Dogecoin.
Lou Piniella and Billy Martin. Billy Martin is probably one of the most problematic managers of all time in Yankees history.
Absolutely.
So F out of here with that. Anyhow.
Yeah, and you know what they would have said? They would have said we got into a fight in the dugout.
That
a freaking raccoon jumped in the Yankee Stadium tunnel.
All right, let me finish my point, please.
Fine,
so,
go ahead.
I think Lindor wanted to come out and have a little fun with the media, but like you said, Steph, being that the cameras caught it how they did, I don't think that was a time for it.
Yeah.
You know, nobody believed it was a raccoon or anything like that. And frankly, I would have had no issue if Lindor came out and said, you know what? It's a long season. We're not going to agree on everything as teammates. And some things sometimes, you know, get a little, you know, heated, but we're good. He's still my teammate, and we're going to go out there and we're going to keep fighting and trying to win games. I don't think anybody would have had anything wrong with that, because if you've played any sport at any time in your life, like, well, high school or above, you're going to get into it with teammates over something. It could be small, it could be big, but guys bump heads because everybody has a different personality. It happens. It's life.
Yeah, agreed. I agree with that 100%. I think Lindor is just trying to be a leader, you know, on his new team, and not trying to have a story that could be painted in a bad light so early in the season. So he tried to cover it up. That's what it sounds like to me. Again, if there was no cameras on it and maybe someone leaked it and they had to speak to it, you wouldn't have heard about a rat or a raccoon. It would have been different. You know,
Yeah.
it would have been more sensible. But because you had cameras on players like rushing to help, it looked like, you know, their fellow players, like it made it tough. You know, so I don't think it's the most Met story. Whoever your friends are, Deck, that said that, that's cool for them. I don't agree, but
Like
it is a story.
Met
It is a story, and I don't think anyone believes it, to be honest. Lindor didn't seem all that credible in his interview. But moving on to the other side, uptown in the Bronx, the Yankees. Your Yankees are doing well. Second in the AL.
Yeah.
I know Greg doesn't want to put much stock in that, but they're looking good. You have Stanton, who I think every Yankee fan was done with, you know, just ready to ship him out, leading the team in batting average right now, in home runs, RBIs as well. He's doing what you want Stanton to do, you know, mash the ball, drive in runs. The average is just, you know, that's icing on the cake, but he is performing to, you know, the level that you expect. The pitching has looked better. I'm happy to see these Yankees, right? I even as a Met fan, it is nice to see the Yankees doing as you expect them to, because they have the kind of team that can. DJ to me still needs to get going a little bit, but that's just in time. Honestly, I can't imagine DJ struggling at the plate. Not that he's truly struggling; he's hitting a lot better, but just not to what you would expect. Deck, fill us in. What are you hearing in these Yankee streets?
Yeah. Well, first off, I'm gonna be happy to say that I was not one of the Yankee fans that gave up on Giancarlo Stanton. Hence why I drafted 2 shares of him in fantasy this year, and he's been off the charts amazing for me at the DH utility spot. Let's get him some outfield eligibility, please. Ridiculous. Anyway, as far as DJ goes, I'm not really worried, because, and my philosophy is that, like, 300 hitters, like Manny Ramirez used to always say, I know he wasn't necessarily always a 300 hitter, he was more of a power hitter, but still, he always used to say, if he has a slow April, he's like, talk to me in August. Look at my numbers then. And I think the same is true for hitters of that quality, like especially the caliber of DJ. And I think like a foil, like a little bit of a lesser comp DJ would be Jeff McNeil. And I think both those guys are 300 hitters, and I think they'll both figure it out by midsummer. I think that right now, if they have a little bit of a slow start, I know Jeff started, he was like 226 or whatever it was, and then you get back.
He said something interesting there that we're going to come back to. He doesn't realize he slipped up, but
this is going to come back to the non-story of Tatis, because you've both been wrong about him all year. I totally understand why this is going.
No. It's you constantly put your foot in your mouth and you don't even realize it.
I wish. Well, then, can you get me in
Deck,
something, please? I mean, my God.
Hold on,
What's up?
Deck. Stay on.
You're like the
topic.
worst.
You're
You'd be
talking
a
about
terrible
Yankees.
lawyer.
You're talking about the
Continue.
Yankees. You would be a
Yes,
terrible
I
lawyer
am.
as well, because the number of tangents you go on, you would never get to your point. So
I would be fired. You
should-
guys could not
you should-
touch me in a courtroom. First of all,
Okay,
no
all right.
chance.
Okay, I don't believe that for a second. But finish your point. About
I get
the
my
Yankees.
boys out of trouble all the time. It just doesn't
I
have to be in a
don't
courtroom.
believe that, but
You
I'm
should
not here to
that.
believe it. I'm not here to believe that. I'm here to listen to you talk about the Yankees. So finish up.
Yes. So going back to, like I said, pure 300 hitters, not guys that are just like, that's just not their craft. Pure 300 hitters, they get it back together. He'll get it back together. We'll see Jeff McNeil get it back together, and we'll see DJ get it together. Stanton, whether he stays where he is, because we know he's not a 300 hitter, the likelihood is that he's not going to hit 290 for the rest of the year. But if he ever did, and he really just went on this like crazy 2017 a la MVP season, then that would be great. Right now, I'm happy what he's doing for the team. He's really stepped up, kind of got the New York booze out of his ears. I guess he kind of threw all of his onto Lindor, and now Lindor is kind of finding somebody to throw it onto because he's breaking out of his streak and doing really good. Judge, Obviously, I made him as my crazy, hot take because I'm not one to pick the most bland MVP and Cy Young picks. Although for Cy Young, that would have been the way to go. But there's nothing bland about DeGrom and Cole. But yeah, right now, Judge, he's fallen off a little bit. He was hitting 300 last week. Now he's down to, he was at 260, 250, 240, wherever he is now. I'm not quite sure. We can get a look at that in a second. Yeah, I guess this is a tangent, Greg. I mean, whatever. There's no case to be proved here. We're just going, what's the tangent if we're talking about the Yankees?
No. You were talking about hitting, and then you started talking about Cy Young's out of nowhere.
Yeah, well, because I picked Judge for my MVP, and I don't.
What does that have to do with the Cy Young?
Everyone, hey,
it has to do with our picks.
This is Smoke and Mirrors, not the Sports Hit List group chat. Let's stay on topic. All right, Deck.
You're right, Steph. You're right.
Let's hear the end of the reason why you love your Yankees and Stanton is doing great. I honestly believe that he doesn't have to hit 290. 292 or whatever.
No, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. If he hits 260 and he puts up 40 home runs or even 250, it's a great season for Stan. But yeah, like I said, continue.
That's pretty much it. I like what Jameson Taillon and Corey Kluber have been doing. They beat up against bad teams, and now they're starting to do good against good teams. So we saw Kluber give up a couple hits. He really looked good. He gave up 5 2/3, 2 runs. I'll take that any day of the week. And Taillon was good also. He gave up, I think he was 6 1/3, 2 or 3 runs. So that's a quality start right there for him.
It is, definitely.
I just wanted to touch on something that I forgot with the Mets that I think can actually come into play. With Brandon Nimmo being hurt, the Mets called up Khalil Lee, I believe. And I think, he gives them another base running threat. But only thing I'm kind of concerned about, I don't know if he's ready as far as a major league hitter, so they might have him as a fourth outfield. I think Amara Jr. is in front of him, but I am interested to see how Khalil Lee plays in. I think defensively and base running, he'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, Pilar has filled in pretty nicely for Nimmo, both defensively and offensively. And then they've been running more as well, the Mets, in recent games, which is good. So bringing Lee up, hopefully they just stick to that. I think that needs to be part of their game, just to get guys going.
And I love that they have Jeff McNeil hitting first because that's really helped getting him going instead of batting him seventh.
Yes, I agree with that.
Another one of the other reasons that Rojas won't make it through the year, but continue.
well, Greg, I was going to ask you what you think about the Yanks. Get your take. I mean, you've been chiming in a little bit, but
yeah. I had the Yankees winning the division in the beginning of the season, so I didn't think what was happening while they weren't playing well. I didn't think it was going to last because when you have that type of offensive firepower, it's hard to hold them down that long. So. What I am happy to see, though, is that the rest of the division is getting better. So I think that will make for some really good division play. But I think the Yankees will still come out on top if their starting pitching holds up. If their starting pitching does not hold up, I can see some of these other teams kind of hurdling them towards the end of the season. But I still give the Yanks the edge based on their lineup and back end of their pen.
Voigt's coming back too. That's big.
Yes, he's coming back. Yeah. He should be back tomorrow for my fantasy team, which is amazing. So I can drop Ryan Zimmerman.
Did you draft Voigt and then he was down in the minors and you kept him, or you just picked him up recently?
No, I drafted.
He would never be on the way. He would never be on the way.
I drafted him relatively high as well.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
I guess you'd be surprised with some of the waiver pickups. I think I got Dylan Bundy off the waivers, which is a crime.
I definitely drafted him. Somebody asked if Nimmo comes back, is he going back to the top of the lineup?
Can we have that combo after break? Because that's a serious, important combo.
I agree. After commercial, I definitely think that's something we should talk about.
Yes, attaboy. We can talk about it right when we come back from break.
Thanks for the question, Steven.
Right now. Thanks, Steven. We're going to break right now. This is Smoke and Mirrors. Stay locked in. We'll be right back.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is Smoke and Mirrors on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Smoke and Mirrors, presented by the Sports Illitz on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm your host, Stefan Polius, alongside Declan Krogman and Greg Polius. Before we went to break, we did have a question from the Facebook group, from the chat, I should say. And Greg, if I'm not mistaken, it was that when Nimmo comes back, will McNeil stay in the one hole? Correct?
My take on is I think Nimmo has to go back in the one hole because he's a guy who his on base percentage is relatively high. He gets on base. He draws. He sees a lot of pitches. He draws walks. Not only that, I think McNeil is the perfect 2-hole hitter. He's the prototype of a contact guy. Can handle a bat. McNeil is the type of hitter that
he doesn't.
He doesn't strike out. He can literally angle where he wants to put the ball on the field. And I wouldn't mind shifting everybody down in order because then you give your lineup some length.
Declan, what about you?
Yeah, can I just say I agree 100%. First of all, it's a great question whether Nimmo goes back to the top. And I think you could see if they ever didn't, then maybe they'd hit Nimmo 7th like they did with McNeil. Or what you can't do, and I mean this firmly, you cannot drop McNeil back down to 7 or even 6 in the lineup. He's not that kind of hitter. He's not necessarily the run producer that a guy in that 6-hole spot would be, or he's not the defensive specialist that a 7-hitter would be. He needs to be at the top of that lineup. I think personally, if you think about McNeil and Nimmo, I think McNeil is a more talented and a better version of a hitter than Nimmo is. I feel like they have similar games in terms of their hustle and what they're about.
Scrappy.
But I think, very scrappy. I think McNeil is like a supercharged version of Brandon Nimmo, and I think that's why Nimmo's hitting belongs in the one hole, especially with the way he gets on base. The dude draws walks, finds a way to get on. He's a prototype number 1 hitter in today's game, and McNeil hitting second is excellent. Listen, Lindor is the best hitter on the team. I know that they like to do that thing where they hit the best hitter second. I'm all for that. Not with this lineup though. You have too many guys that could fit that 2-hole nicely. And I think putting a guy like McNeil at 2, Lindor 3, Alonso 4, Conforto Smith 5, 6, whatever you want to go from there, and then do your, J. Davis, McCann, VR, whatever. That's what I think they should do.
Go ahead, Steph, and then I'll add something before we move on.
Yeah, I agree with the sentiment. It's predicated on Nimmo's on-base percentage. Less about what he does with the stick is just how often he gets on base. I believe it's over 400% on the season with his OBP, and that's just impressive, right? It's you want that from some of your best players, and that ability to get on base is why you'd want McNeil behind him, because even when he was struggling, he still didn't have double-digit strikeouts. He's someone that puts the ball in play very often, and if you have a guy that has some speed like Nimmo, you're talking about having the opportunity to put him in scoring position. Or if he doesn't, if you want to run more, that single could score him. Or even the fly, the sack, not a sack fly, but a fly into right field can get him to third. It just puts pressure on the defense. So I think having him at the top makes more sense. I also think that him being at the top, as we saw already, has got him going. So it would be a detriment to the team if they try to drop him again. Greg, like you said, it gives the lineup length, which is what you always want from your MLB team, any team really. But I can't agree more. When Nimmo comes back, it's 1, and then McNeil at 2. I think Polar Bear is your prototypical cleanup guy. I don't think he should move. That he's your big bopper. He's your guy that's gonna give you the extra base hits, especially when pitchers make mistakes. And I think dependent on, I don't mind Conforto 5. I know a lot of managers like to do the lefty righty thing, but with the rule now that reliever has to face 3 straight hitters, I don't even think that really matters now. Give your lineup the ability to produce 1 through 8 in the National League. Where you have. Great. Where you don't have this immense drop-off on your last 3 hitters where it's almost like, damn, nothing's going to happen because we got the pitcher up and these 2 guys, they're good defensive players, but they can't do much with the stick.
Yeah, I agree, Greg. I agree with you that I wouldn't go so righty-lefty. I would like to have Conforto and Smith in the same spot. But wouldn't it be more worse now with the reliever rule that the 2 lefties are stacked up? If someone wants to bring in, say the Phillies want to bring in Jose Alvarado and he's got 2 lefties coming up.
Listen, if you're a major league hitter, hit pitching, period. I don't care what side it's coming from.
Yeah. As far as matchups go, Deck is right though. Later in a game, now it helps them when you have two lefties back to back. Well, that guy that has to go against three hitters before he can come out is at least getting two lefties. So it is a benefit to the defense at that point to have lefties stacked up when you're bringing in specialists. I will say, though, I do like the quality of AB from Dom Smith when he is going up against a lefty. Conforto's finding his way. I know Dom Smith is struggling, but when you look at the at-bats, then they're not awful swings. He puts good swings on the ball. So I wouldn't be as hesitant on having them back-to-back.
Agreed. They're having quality ABs. They're not seeing it yet. Kind of like how Lindor was putting the ball in play, but he wasn't getting hits. Also, that I think the shift plays into a lot of Lindor's outs as well.
He was getting unlucky. I mean, like my dad came on and said, a couple weeks ago, whenever we had the overreactions, was that he was hitting like 158, but he only had like 3 strikeouts and however many at bats it was a couple weeks into the year. So he's seeing the ball well, and now he's finally getting results from it.
Which is good, which we want to see. And even Conforto is starting to see the ball well as well.
Yes.
So that's exciting stuff. One thing I wanted to get back to, it was mentioned before the break, was Fernando Tatis Jr. As everyone that has listened to this show knows, he is a point of contention, mostly because of Declan. Not even because
not mostly, all because of Declan.
No, you're right. You're right.
Well,
I don't want to give it 100%.
Tango.
I don't want to give it 100%. I mean, we're both in agreement on Tatis. Most people are. Your father is
most people would be wrong.
Low on not. I shouldn't say he's lower on Tatis, which is where you got your take from. Which is where you got your take from. But your father doesn't go as hard as you do. So, what we were discussing before the show started was the fact that Tatis last 2 games collected 4 hits. He's batting .240 again. His average dropped down. He was around .240 about a week ago, and then his average dropped down again. But he has 9 home runs, 14 RBIs. He's scored 23 runs, and he has 7 stolen bases. He has a .315 OBP. Declan proceeded to say, once we spoke about the .240, that by the end of the week he'll be batting .218. Which again. Yes. Which both Greg and I said, he just collected 4 hits in 2 games. He's probably going on a streak, which most you expect from your good hitters. But Declan went on to say, no, that's not the case. We've seen him have a few hits and then go hitless for a game or two. So .218 at the end of the week. Deck, I'll let you speak to that more so the people can understand why you feel like Tatis cannot go on a hot streak after going 2 games with 4 hits.
Well, I mean, first of all, we haven't really seen too much that would be great this year from Tatis. Listen, I predicted him to hit 260, 265. Not there yet. Right now he's at 240. 2 days ago he was at 218. He gets into these slumps where he goes 0 for 4, 0 for 3, occasional 1 for 4s here and there. And then he has the games where it's 2, 3 in a row where he's got 2 hits. And then it boosts it up and he falls back down. Listen, we saw him climb up from 188. He was hitting 130 at one point this year, and he's climbed up and he's doing what he can right now. He's starting to climb up, but he's flip-flopping from am I hitting 245, am I hitting 215? It goes both ways. It's still relatively early, especially he missed games from that shoulder injury that stemmed from spring training. So I don't really think it's a huge talking point today, to be honest. I mean, the guy's hitting 240, so we haven't seen much. I don't even think it's worth bringing up. But since it is a point of contention, as you guys mentioned, I'll have to mention that's where I stand at this moment.
Right.
I just find it really fascinating that you talk and make what's the word I'm looking for? You make contradicting points as you speak, because you said it's not really story. Well, he's only hitting 240, but then at the same time just said a couple weeks ago he's hitting 130. So what you're telling me is he just raised his batting average by 110 points in a couple weeks.
Yeah, after you start off with 3 games into the season, and then he gets hurt. It's not. There's nothing there.
See, this is what I'm talking about. You cannot say it's nothing there. If he that speaks to the talent level. If he raised his batting average 110 points in a couple weeks, that speaks to the level of hitter he is and the level of hitter he can be. All baseball players are streaky. Okay, it's very rare you're going to come across your Tony Gwynns, your Wade Boggs, like those type of hitters that are going to be 340 every year, especially in this era of home run baseball. So to say that it's a non sequitur. It's not a really big deal that he's hitting 240, but you just made it a big deal by mentioning he was hitting 130 a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to need you to be consistent and not be consistently inconsistent.
Well, I wish I could say that was the case, but I mean, listen, I'm not as consistent.
These are
as you
your
myself.
words, though. These are your words.
And here's where you're wrong, and I love to see it because it's just so annoying, is that if you go 130, you start the season 1 for 13 and get hurt, listen, you're only going to go up from there once you come back. We're not looking at a guy who went 1 for 30 like Lindor for the entire month of April. He's been streaky, but even when he's streaky, he's still not up to the standard that even I said he would be at, and I said he would be down. And looking at the comments right now, Manny, Judge has been better than Tatis for the entirety of the season.
Hold on, Deck, because you're not making sense, and I need you to make sense. You said...
Was that supposed to be funny?
No, it wasn't. No, I'm being so serious right now. You're legitimately not making sense.
Let's go. He hasn't even played 600 games yet, so let's continue.
What is the relevance of that?
Everything is relevant about that. What's the relevance of the injury that you guys said he wasn't going to get? Oh, wait, that's right. He got it. So
let me get my question out.
Yeah, get your question out.
Because you were the same person that said, Francisco Lindor is slumping, but you have faith in him that he'll turn it around.
Yeah.
All right. Fernando Tatis, as you stated, jumped his batting average in a couple weeks by 110 points, but you are still saying you don't see him turning it around. Now, career average wise, Fernando Tatis has a higher career average than Francisco Lindor, albeit it's in less at bats. But
that's actually a completely irrelevant, insignificant metric. But
Fernando Tatis's career, when he had the most at bats in a particular season, he hit over 300, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So what you're telling me is you don't think he's capable of getting back to that, but you think Francisco Lindor, who went on a worse slump to start the season, is somehow fine and just, and turn it around. But you don't think Fernando Tatis can turn it around. Make that make sense.
I didn't say Lindor would hit 300. I didn't pick him to win MVP like you did. I mean,
that has nothing to do with it. You are not responding directly to the question.
What is the question you would like me to answer right now?
Why is it that you can say Francisco Lindor can turn it around, who has showed in his career he has not quite hit for the average that Tatis can, but you don't think Tatis can do it? Why?
Because Lindor is a more seasoned hitter. He's done it longer and he's done it for better. What do you mean? Like just because
I just told you he hasn't done it for better.
He is absolutely a better hitter than Tatis. Are you kidding me?
Did you hear what I said?
For 6 years.
I said for average.
He's talking about average.
I said specifically.
When have
for
I ever?
average.
But see, when did I mention Lindor was going to hit 300? Him turning around in different ways.
This is not about 300 as a benchmark. This is about the comparison between the two players, and I need you to stop deflecting.
It's not deflecting, first of all. I'm saying that
Steph, you want to jump in here?
Hold on. Yeah, I'm going to
jump in. I'm going to finish my point because, frankly, it's ridiculous.
Declan.
I'm saying this. Hold on. Tatis, I said he's just going to have a couple more down games this week, and that's going to bring his batting average down. First of all, that is completely on. Did I not say at the end of the week he was going to hit 218?
But the problem is, how can you say that if he
because it's happened every game of every year.
No,
it's happened every week with him.
If he just went
down 20 points every week,
you're basing this off of a small sample size, which is foolish to make a point. You're talking about how he has
foolish?
less
is that you think he's not going to get injured?
No.
After a small sample size,
that's based on nothing. Like you're talking about a point that means nothing in this conversation. It means nothing in this conversation. His injury hasn't been a part of how he's played so far. After coming back,
so then
he hasn't shown a problem. What are you talking about?
He's been terrible.
He struggles.
He's been horrible.
Have you played baseball before? Have you always been good at playing baseball? Because everyone has their struggles. It's called a rough patch. So to say that,
I just say
that, it's not about it being a problem. The whole point, you're talking about your old point, which I don't care about anymore. I'm talking about what you just said, which is that at the end of the week, he's going to be hitting 218, which doesn't make any sense. Just because he's had a little back and forth where he's had a game where he had 2 hits and he had 1 hit, then he went hit list for 2 games and he had a few more hits. That doesn't mean that he can't go on a streak. To say that, to use that logic would mean that any player that you deem isn't showing what they have this year can't go on a streak. I don't believe that Tatis is the hitter that he's been this season. No one in baseball does. No one that watches baseball has eyes believes that he's this hitter. But you think that he's going to drop down again for some reason. And
after
it's
just saying he went up 110 points in a couple weeks.
But with that, we got a little fiery. We do have to go to break, though. So stick with us. Talk a little bit more baseball when we come back. It's been a lot of baseball. Hope you enjoy. This is Smoke and Mirrors, presented by the Sports Headless on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. We'll be right back.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. This is Smoke and Mirrors on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.
Welcome back. This is Smoke and Mirrors, presented by the Sports Headless on the Worldwide Sports Radio Network. I'm your host, Stephen Polius, alongside Declan Krogman and Greg Polius. Had a lot of fun with Tatis, but I want to move on to a story we mentioned on Friday that we got a little bit more details about. So Albert Pujols, who was designated for assignment by the Angels, we touched on it, and I believe, personally, I assume that it was potentially mutual. We didn't have much from Pujols' side, but we do now have a little bit more detail about what potentially went down. Apparently Wednesday night, on Thursday he was when he's DFA, but on Wednesday night he was locked in to be in the starting lineup against the Rays. But in the daytime he was. By the nighttime, apparently he was allegedly yelling at Joe Madden, telling the president, John Caprino, and the GM that he doesn't want to retire. So they approached him later on in that day about him potentially retiring instead of having to DFA him. And it just seems like it's ugly. From the player side, players on the team didn't know. Apparently Mike Trout was blindsided by it when he saw Pujols hugging players goodbye. He got a little teared up about it because for Mike Trout, Pujols has been a part of his career from the start. And that's a mentor for him. You have a lot of former MLB players as well, Hall of Famers, who did not take kindly to how the Angels treated Pujols, with Pedro Martinez, Adrian Beltre, and David Ortiz coming out and saying that he deserves better for the Hall of Fame career that he's had, and agreed he does deserve better. Greg, I want to hear from you. What do you think about the Angels' handling of this situation, and maybe potentially where you see Pujols going next?
I 100% agree with those Hall of Famers. I think how the Angels handled this was absolute trash. Not only from the Pujols aspect, but you right now have the best player in the game, and you blindsided him. From a player relations standpoint, that's bad business. You know, how do you not tell Mike Trout this guy won't be here anymore, and he has to find out on his own? That's not a good look for free agents that want to maybe come to Anaheim in the future. You know, the fact that they're handling a first ballot Hall of Famer like this. And furthermore, Albert Pujols has built up enough cachet to find himself in a lineup to work his way out of a slump. I don't care if he was hitting 150. Until he physically cannot go, you give him that opportunity. He's earned that much. You know, whether it be an off day here or there, because again, no other sports complains about off day, so I don't think it would be a big issue. And you try to work him back up. But at this point of his career, to be DFA'd is a slap in the face. And I can understand why Pujols reacted the way he did. Like, how dare you? I may not have had the stellar career with the Angels that I had with the Cardinals, but you're essentially throwing away everything I've done, and including mentoring the face of your organization for what will be decades to come.
Mm-hmm. He still had a really good time in Anaheim, though. It wasn't like
that's what I'm saying.
He played poorly. Yeah.
No, it's just because his Cardinals career was so like otherworldly.
Yes.
And they paid him a ton of money in the back end of that deal. Like the back end of those 10-year deals when you pay a guy when he's 30, like, it's not going to work out amazing towards the end.
It is a bad look for not just the Angels, but baseball as a whole. And as your second question, as far as where I think he's going to latch on to, I definitely think it's going to have to be another American League club. I would have loved to see him go back to the Cards, but I think they got a lot of young bats and Goldie at first. I don't think it's going to be feasible. So he's got to go someplace with a DH. So I don't know. Maybe he ends up in Kansas City, or maybe I think this is going to prevent him from retiring because now he has something to prove.
Yeah, for sure.
He definitely can't retire here.
I think if Voit wasn't coming back, the Yankees would have made sense because they were really trying to fill that first baseman role with Mike Ford, putting Odor in. Now Odor gets hurt. If Luke Voit was a month or two out from coming back, then I think the Yankees would have made sense.
It's possible.
I still would have loved to see the Cardinals as one. I could see the Red Sox if they went down that road. They've been DHing JD a lot, so it doesn't work. then yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a team. Maybe the Rays because G-Man Choi's been hurt a lot. But I mean, I would think if you're him, you'd want to go to a contender too.
I think the Central is the most wide open division at this current juncture, and I think going to a team like the Royals where he could provide leadership to a relatively young ball club, would really help. Even maybe a Seattle, but also it depends because Kalinick is supposed to be called up soon, so we don't know what their DH situation is going to be like. They said Kalinick is going to be the starting left fielder. So does that left fielder that's starting now get moved to DH? Like, we don't know what's going on there.
I think if Pujols' bat was a little bit better at this point, then you might have teams that would want to, test the waters and go in on him. But you're picking him up because he's a future Hall of Famer. He has some left in the tank, but to give him the time, to give him the ABs.
Steph would enjoy that. Speedy, you see what Speedy just said, Steph?
No.
Said the Mariners need him for their playoff push. You all about that?
Oh, no, I am. Kalinick is a big part of that, but veterans' presence is always important. Someone like Pujols would be great in that organization. So I agree that the Mariners is something that's a potential. I don't think that Kalinick coming up I don't think there's any hitter that is on that field right now, in the outfield, I should say, that would prevent Pujols from, getting ABs. If he were.
I mean, Kyle Lewis will be in center, but that's not going to really affect him.
No.
I mean, I'm not sure they have him right. Yeah, the corners wise, you'll be fine. The White Sox would have been nice, but the problem is they have Mercedes DHing, Grandal. They use 3 catchers and the first base spot's locked up, so it just wouldn't work there. I mean, that's a shame. I would love to see him go to the NL, but there's really not a lot of teams that need first basemen besides like Pirates or something. And
I mean, at this point, I look at him as a DH, not really as a first baseman.
Yeah, totally. But also it's tough, like because if we're going into him potentially going to a team, there's no DH in the NL. So I think he gets screwed by this not being a year later too.
Yes, agree with that. And I mean, ultimately, where I am with this story is that it is a damn shame, Greg, like you said, that Pujols, future Hall of Famer, just what he's done for that organization, for the Angels, in the 10 years, just almost 10 years he's been there, to be treated in such a fashion. And I hope he does latch on with the team and he makes noise. I hope he makes it to the postseason. That to me is the revenge.
Can I just mention one more thing? And this happens across sports, and as fans, it really bothers me because when players want to leave an organization, they are absolutely destroyed in the media. How dare you? How dare you leave the city? You're not professional. You're unprofessional. Where are the articles talking about how unprofessional the Angels were? Where are the fans saying, "Hey, how dare you treat a Hall of like we have the Hall of Famers saying it, but I'm not hearing this on ESPN. I'm not hearing this on MLB Network. They're just like, oh well, the Angels DFA'd him, and move on to the next story. Why is this not a big story? And this is part of the problem I have with fans and media when they want the onus is always on the player. It's never on the organization.
I feel like it kind of is a big story, and I think in this case, no one's given Albert Pujols any flack. I mean, people are understanding that this is on the Angels,
but they're not saying it. That's the issue.
Right? You want it to be like when a free agent leaves, like when LeBron left Cleveland. You want the team to get slandered as much.
Not
as
even free agents, because when players request trades, a la James Harden or Antonio Brown being unhappy in Pittsburgh, things like that, they're crushed, they're killed.
Well, the Antonio Brown thing's a little bit of a different story.
Yeah. Pujols tried to take it behind the scenes and speak to them, and instead of trying to work it out, they released him.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling. Especially, I know they wanted to start him. They were going to start him against a lefty, and then that's when Pujols was like, "All right, you're not going to start me against." Like they went back on that decision. It's like very Jorge Posada-esque when they wanted to bat him ninth and DH him.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say though is that they're bottom of the division right now. They're a little lost. I think the pitching hasn't really been there, but we could all agree that Pujols was not the issue. I mean, Ohtani hasn't had many starts, but Bundy isn't doing that well. I mean, he has a 5-something ERA. He's a quality pitcher, just hasn't found it yet. Ohtani hasn't pitched enough to make that impact. He has pitched well when he's out there, but just not out there enough. So, to say that Pujols is to DFA him is almost to say like, okay, we could do better right now. And I don't think he was the problem.
I agree. And in regards to Bundy, I think that more so with him, he just had one or two bad starts, but he's making a lot of those 6 innings, three-run games, and I feel like that's doable for him in this case. But yeah, I think he can get back on the horse. But I agree. I don't know what
he needs to get back on the horse. I mean, the whole point is he's their ace, right? He's their stud. Has to go out there every 5 games, every 5 days, or I should say games. But he's not there yet. He's not providing them with enough to get a win, and they need that from him.
Dylan Bundy is too good to pitch so poorly or so mediocrely.
Yes.
Mediocre in my opinion. Man, shout out to Manny in the comments. He said the Dodgers are trash. By the way, they're doing terrible. The Dodgers have lost their last 5 series. I'm still going to hold steadfast on. I don't think it's that big of a deal, but it is worth mentioning. And Trevor Bauer came out upset. And I don't know if bashing is the right word, but basically upset at the Dodgers for their lackluster play. What do you guys think about that?
You just got here, dude. This is a team that just won the championship. Like, maybe leave it to Kershaw to do something.
Kershaw will never do that. I think Bauer's doing what Bauer does, and that's like a part of what you sign up for. I don't know how guys will take to it because he's new, but I didn't read the sound, read the clip or the quote. But to me, sometimes guys that do that fire up a team, right? Like that's what Trevor Bauer can bring if done the right way. Kershaw is not that person. He's more like your Mike Trout. That's just going to be the quiet leader, like I lead by example. Bauer to me, I don't think it's like you just got here. He might just be calling out the team because they need to. They need to be called out. They're too good to be where they are right now, even though it's early. So something like this could get them started.
A quick side note, Steph, your nephew, during our Tatis back and forth, actually came in here and told me to lower my voice because he hears me while he's in class.
That's too funny. Oh, I mean, I don't blame him for that.
No, it's fair points.
There's one last thing I wanted to mention, a little throw in for everyone. I thought this was kind of fun, it was nice. So DK Metcalf, the wide receiver for Seattle, he had some Olympic hopes after his chase down of Buda Baker. So when the season ended, for I think 2 or 3 months after the season ended, he started training. He started training for the 100-meter dash, and this past weekend he ran. He ran the 100-meter dash. He ran a 10.37, which was a 15th out of 18 competitors in the preliminary heats. He didn't make the cut to go to the finals to make it to the Tokyo Olympics, but he was only 0.41 seconds behind the winner. His name is Cravan Gillespie. And I thought that was cool. Like, this is a football player, a guy that's 6'5", 230-something pounds, and then Cravan is 6 foot, 160. Like, it's a 0.4 is a lot. Like, I'm not making it seem like it's a small number when you're talking about track, but it's still very impressive to see him. I watched the heat. I watched the run. It looked great. He looked solid. He's just a huge man that happens to run a 4.33.
It was a men amongst boys when
the size difference was clear. Shout out to Speedy. Said Marquise Goodwin almost qualified in 2016.
Yeah,
and he's an over the top smaller receiver. It's crazy. Yeah. I feel like DK Metcalf's the biggest receiver in terms of pure size in the NFL and pure, him being jacked and a huge dude. If you had to guess one receiver would be in the 100-meter dash, you'd probably hit Tyreek Hill and then a bunch of other people before you mentioned the biggest guy. He came in last in his heat, but he did good. I mean, his times were there for the most part. I mean, I can't say I'm an enthusiast for the 100-meter dash.
No, I do think it's impressive that he was able to run a 10.37. Like, even though he finished 15th out of 18th, these are people who've been training their entire lives for this moment. And for him to even make it after a couple months, I think is actually really impressive.
That's what I'm speaking to. Just like the size difference and the difference in time for someone that hasn't trained their whole life to do this, it is impressive. I also like the quote. So he asked him what prompted him to challenge professional sprinters, and he's like, "Why not? Just another way to test my body, to test myself against different athletes, besides just doing football training all day." And I mean, I like that approach. Other athletes have done it, like Speedy mentioned Godwin. And for me, seeing DK out there after training for 2 or 3 months, It was nice. It was great to see that. If he made it to the finals, it would have been really interesting. But I also think in the track world, you don't want to see, some football guy that just started 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah.
It's not going to be a good look.
Yeah, just sprinting his way to the final preliminaries.
They put him in like the best heat out of everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's going to do it for us for this Monday edition. Hope you all enjoyed. This is Smoke and Mirrors, as you know, the show you love and enjoy. We're going to be back on Friday between 1 and 2. But until then, enjoy your week, and we'll see you then. Take care.
It's the Worldwide Sports Radio Network.